So I want you to think about the longest you've ever been stuck in a really profound rut,
Oh, yeah, those are the worst. Like a deep career slump or something.
or a toxic habit, or just a period where your whole life feels completely dormant. And now I want you to imagine being stuck there for 20 years.
Wow, 20 years. That's an entire generation just stuck.
Exactly. How do you actually break out of a cycle that has defined a whole generation? Before we unravel the mechanics of that kind of massive turnaround, I want to warmly welcome you, our listener, to today's deep dive. And I really want to offer a sincere divine blessing over your day and for your entire week ahead. May you find clarity, peace, and purpose in whatever challenges you are facing right now.
I love that. And that concept of a 2-decade rut is, well, it's the perfect lens for what we are exploring today.
It really is.
We are looking at one of the most stunning national turnarounds in ancient history. You can find it in the book of 1 Samuel, specifically chapter 7.
And our mission here isn't just to tell you a historical story, right? We're pulling insights from the Holman and NAA study Bibles today.
Yes, exactly. Fantastic sources for getting into the real meat of the text.
And by digging into the historical, cultural, and linguistic context with those sources, we want to figure out the actual mechanism of change.
Right, like how does a massive group of people go from total depression and vulnerability to sustained peace and victory?
So to understand the cure, you first have to feel the severity of the disease. And the context here is it's incredibly bleak.
Oh, absolutely. For 20 long years leading up to this moment, the absolute center of Israel's national and spiritual identity has been completely sidelined.
You're talking about the Ark of the Covenant, right?
Yes, the Ark. It's just sitting in a house on a hill in a place called Kiriath Jearim.
It's essentially in a storage unit. I mean,
Okay.
the house belongs to a man named Abinadab, and they have his son, Agazar, guarding it.
Which the historical analysis in our study Bibles tells us Agazar was a very common Levitical name.
Meaning they were basically doing the bare minimum. Like they had a Levite keeping an eye on it to maintain a sliver of protocol.
Right, but it's entirely out of the public eye.
Yeah.
And that bare minimum approach really defined their entire culture for 2 decades.
20 years of just drifting.
Yeah. The ark is out of sight, the nation is spiritually drifting, and a whole generation has grown up thinking this dormant, compromised state is just normal life.
The momentum of apathy is incredibly hard to stop once it sets in.
It really is. But eventually a shift happens. The historical record notes that the people of Israel begin to lament or deeply long for the Lord.
I want to pause on that word lament for a second because it is so relatable.
Oh, for sure.
When you were stuck in a bad place, eventually the pain of staying the same outweighs the fear of change. You wake up and you feel this heavy, sorrowful regret.
But here's the trap with that. Longing for change just isn't enough on its own.
Right. Lamenting is just an emotion. You can feel bad about your life all day long, but feeling bad accomplishes absolutely nothing if you stop there.
Emotion is merely the prerequisite for rescue. And the prophet Samuel, who steps into the leadership void here, he understands human psychology perfectly.
He really does. He sees a whole nation weeping and feeling sorry for themselves.
But he doesn't just offer them a comforting hug, He issues a strict, highly disruptive ultimatum.
He basically demands proof that their tears are real.
Exactly. He tells them, if you are genuinely returning to God with all your hearts, you have to physically remove your foreign gods.
And he specifically targets the Baals and the Ashtaroth.
Right, he does. And we should probably explain why that specific demand was so difficult.
Yeah, because to a modern listener, throwing away a statue sounds super easy. Like, just toss it in the trash.
Right, but these weren't just decorative items. The Baals were the primary Canaanite deities associated with agriculture, weather, and fertility.
And the Ashtaroth were the cult objects of worship linked to Baal's consort.
Exactly. And in an agrarian society, your entire survival depends on the rain and the crops.
So hedging your bets was just the logical survival strategy.
It really was. The Israelites kept the Ark of the Covenant on a hill, guarded by Eleazar, to appease the god of their ancestors.
But they also put up shrines to Baal in their backyards.
Yeah, as a sort of agricultural insurance policy, everyone else in the region was worshiping Baal to get good harvests, so...
So to dismantle those altars meant risking your actual economic security. It meant standing out from the surrounding culture.
Which was a terrifying leap for them.
It's the ultimate test of breaking a toxic habit. Think about realizing you have a severe addiction to your smartphone, right?
Oh, yeah, that's a great comparison.
And you realize it's ruining your mental health. You
Yeah.
can sit on your couch, crying about your screen time, experiencing genuine lament.
But if you keep the phone on your nightstand,
Nothing changes. You actually have to perform the painful physical action of deleting the apps or locking the phone in a different room.
Samuel is basically forcing them to delete the apps.
Exactly. And our sources really anchor this point. The study Bibles highlight the Hebrew text here.
Yes, the linguistic concept used for repentance, which is often translated with the idea of converting or turning back, is inextricably linked to physical action.
In this ancient context, you cannot claim a change of heart without a change of hands. Words are completely cheap after 20 years of compromise.
So they do it. They tear down the altars, they remove the Baals, they take the physical action.
But doing something privately in your own backyard doesn't solidify a national cultural shift, does it?
No, it doesn't. Samuel knows they have to go public. And that leads to a massive gathering at a place called Mizpah.
Which was located about 8 kilometers northwest of Jerusalem, right?
That's right. And this gathering is a profound display of collective vulnerability.
What exactly do they do there?
They do three main things. They fast, they publicly confess their sins, and they perform a very specific, deeply symbolic ritual.
The water ritual.
Yes, they draw water and they pour it out before the Lord.
I am so fascinated by that water ritual. Just think about pouring a heavy pitcher of water onto bone-dry Middle Eastern desert soil.
It just disappears immediately.
The absolute second that liquid hits the dirt, it vanishes. It seeps into the ground, and you can never, ever get it back.
You certainly can't scrape it back into the pitcher.
No, it is an entirely irreversible action.
Yeah.
That is just a stunning metaphor for total surrender.
It really is. You are emptying yourself and publicly demonstrating that there is no taking this commitment back.
Our study notes expand on this beautifully, too.
Yeah, scholars frequently connect this exact action to a passage in Lamentations, chapter 2, verse 19.
Which talks about pouring out your heart like water before the Lord.
Exactly. And when you combine this irreversible emptying with fasting, which physically weakens them, they are tangibly demonstrating their internal emptiness.
And their absolute unhedged reliance on God to fill and protect them.
Right. But I have to play the skeptic here for a second.
Okay, go for it.
Spiritually, this is a beautiful moment of surrender. But tactically, logistically.
Oh, it's a complete nightmare.
Right. You have just taken the entire nation, removed all their cultural alliances with the neighboring gods, weakened them through fasting.
Gathered them into one highly visible, localized spot.
You've literally painted a giant target on their backs.
And the Philistines definitely noticed. The Philistine rulers, who are the dominant military oppressors in the region, hear that Israel has massed at Mizpah.
And from a military intelligence perspective, a massive gathering of a subjugated people looks like one thing.
At a rebellion.
Exactly. So the Philistine army mobilizes and marches straight toward them.
Imagine you are an Israelite standing at Mizpah.
Yeah.
You finally did the right thing. You threw away your idols.
You poured out the water. You are fasting.
And your reward for this spiritual obedience is the sound of a heavily armed, professional military marching over the hills to slaughter your family.
The text says they were terrified, and they begged Samuel not to stop crying out to God for rescue.
It is the ultimate pressure test of that water-pouring ritual.
Oh, absolutely. They just claimed utter reliance on God. But now, staring down the weapons of their enemies.
The temptation to panic, grab whatever farm implements they can find, and rely on their own strength is overwhelming.
And this is where Samuel's leadership is just, well, it's baffling from a human survival standpoint.
Oh, if I am in that crowd, I am furious with Samuel. The ground is shaking. The army is in full armor.
And instead of scrambling to organize a defense line or handing out weapons...
Samuel stops to perform a religious sacrifice.
Yeah, and he doesn't just sacrifice a strong ox, he finds a nursing lamb.
A baby sheep. And he begins a slow, methodical, whole burnt offering. To a normal person, this looks completely suicidal.
It defies every single ounce of military logic, but it perfectly aligns with theological logic.
How so? Because it just seems crazy.
Well, Samuel is sending a very specific message. First, if we look at the religious protocols in the study Bibles, an animal had to be at least 8 days old to be sacrificed.
So he's not rushing it.
Exactly. Samuel isn't panicking. He isn't rushing the ritual or cutting corners just because an army is approaching.
He is maintaining absolute adherence to the law.
Right. He's modeling composure for a terrified nation.
He is projecting an insane level of calm.
And second, look at the symbol he uses. The nursing lamb is the universal symbol of absolute fragility and helplessness.
So if Samuel had drawn a sword, he would have communicated that their salvation depended on their own martial prowess.
Exactly. But by offering a helpless baby lamb, he is making a definitive statement. He's saying, we are just as helpless as this animal.
Wow. Like, if we are going to survive today, God has to be the one to do it. We cannot save ourselves.
He is calling their bluff on the water pouring ritual. They said they surrendered, now they have to live it.
And the response to that extreme vulnerability is cinematic. While Samuel is in the middle of offering this sacrifice, a massive, deafening thunder crashes down from the sky.
Directly onto the Philistine army.
It is the intervention of the divine warrior. But we really need to look closer at the specific effect of that thunder, right?
Hey. The footnotes in the study Bibles are so helpful here. When you dig into the original Hebrew text, the word used to describe what happened to the Philistines is hamam.
Hamam. How is that different from regular battlefield fear? I mean, soldiers get scared and retreat all the time.
Hamam denotes a very specific, divinely induced panic and total cognitive confusion.
So it's not just a tactical retreat.
No, it's not just soldiers losing their nerve. It implies a shattering of the mind's ability to process reality.
That is terrifying.
It is. And it's actually the exact same concept, the exact same supernatural dread that the ancient texts describe God using against the Egyptian army at the Red Sea.
Oh, wow. So the thunder wasn't just loud, it completely scrambled their ability to function.
Exactly. They're completely routed.
And the Israelites, who just moments before were a terrified, defenseless, fasting crowd, suddenly realized the army coming to kill them is in absolute disarray.
And they chase the fleeing Philistines all the way below a place called Bethkar.
It's a total miraculous victory born entirely out of admitting their own helplessness.
Which brings us to the hardest part of any turnaround.
Right. Surviving the crisis is an incredible high. But how do you ensure you don't immediately slide back into another 20-year rut once the adrenaline wears off?
Human amnesia is the real enemy here. We are incredibly prone to forgetting the miracles in our lives.
So true.
Yeah.
A month after this victory, a farmer might look at his struggling crops and think, you know, maybe setting up just one little Baal statue wouldn't hurt.
Right, just to be safe.
Yeah, the fear of the Philistines fades,
Yeah.
and the old toxic comforts start looking really appealing again.
And Samuel understands this flaw in human nature perfectly. He knows that spiritual amnesia is what caused the 20-year depression in the first place.
So what does he do to stop it?
He knows memory must be anchored to something physical. So to memorialize the victory and sustain the momentum, he does something highly tangible.
He takes a large stone. Right.
Yes, he sets it up right between Mizpah and Shen, and he names it Ebenezer.
Which translates to stone of help. And he declares, thus far the Lord has helped us.
It is a geographic, unavoidable marker of a historical reality.
So every single time a merchant or a farmer or a child walks past that massive stone on the road, they are forced to remember the thunder.
They're forced to remember the baby lamb. They are visually reminded that they were completely helpless and they were rescued.
I really think we desperately need to apply this concept of the Ebenezer stone to our modern lives.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
How would you apply it?
Well, when you survive an impossible battle, like a health crisis, a financial collapse, a massive personal failure, your brain eventually normalizes the rescue.
It does. We just adapt and forget.
And when the next crisis hits, that same pessimistic voice tells you, this time it's over. You aren't going to make it.
So you need physical markers in your path to interrupt that lie.
Exactly. You need tangible evidence of past survival to fuel future resilience.
Maybe your Ebenezer is a framed letter of rejection you overcame sitting on your office desk.
Yeah. Or maybe it's a specific photograph you keep as your phone background.
Or a journal entry you force yourself to read on the 1st of every month.
You just have to manufacture reminders of the hurdles you've cleared, or you will lose hope when the next wave crashes.
And we can see the historical effectiveness of Samuel's tangible reinforcement. The geopolitical landscape completely shifted after this Ebenezer moment.
What happened?
The historical records in our sources indicate that the Philistines were heavily subdued for the rest of Samuel's days as a leader.
That is a staggering shift from being utterly terrified of them just a short time prior.
The reversal is complete. Furthermore, the accessible border cities spanning from Ekron all the way to Gath were fully restored to Israel.
So they actually regained their lost territory.
Yes. And it wasn't just the Philistines. The text points out there was even peace with the remaining Amorites in the region.
The external threats were completely neutralized.
Exactly. But external peace is fragile if the internal culture is rotting.
Right, we've seen them drift before when things got quiet. So how does Samuel maintain the internal focus of the nation?
How does he keep them from wandering off into apathy again?
Yeah, what's his strategy there?
By establishing a relentless, dedicated routine. Turnarounds require a spike in action, but sustaining them requires a system.
That makes a lot of sense.
Samuel acts as a lifelong judge over the people, and rather than sitting comfortably in a capital city waiting for people to come to him, he establishes an annual traveling circuit.
He goes directly to the people.
Exactly, visiting highly significant historical cities every single year.
And the geography of his circuit is just a masterclass in psychological reinforcement. He travels to Bethel, a city deeply tied to the ancient patriarchs and foundational promises.
And then he goes to Gilgal.
Tell me about Gilgal.
Gilgal is fascinating. It's tied to Joshua's miraculous river crossing into the Promised Land. It represents the realization of hope. Now, it is worth noting that centuries later, prophets like Amos and Hosea would condemn Gilgal as an illegitimate, corrupted worship site.
Right, things change over time.
Yeah. But during Samuel's era, it was a place of profound, positive historical memory.
And then he returns to Mizpah, the very site we just discussed today.
The place of their vulnerable surrender, the poured-out water, and the thunderous rescue.
By walking this specific circuit, Bethel, Gilgal, Mizpah Samuel's physically marching the nation through their own history of salvation year after year.
He is systematizing their memory. And finally, he always returns to his hometown of Ramah.
To rest.
Well, the texts emphasize that there, in his home base, he builds an altar to the Lord.
So he doesn't just rely on the public performative circuit.
No, his private home life is deeply anchored in the exact same devotion.
This combination of external security, historical remembrance, and dedicated localized routine secures a long, unprecedented era of stability for the nation.
When you lay it all out like that, it is an absolute blueprint for breaking any cycle of depression or apathy.
You acknowledge the sorrow, but you don't stop there. You take painful, physical action to remove whatever toxic compromises you've made.
You embrace the terrifying vulnerability of relying on help outside yourself.
And then once you survive, you build tangible monuments and relentless routines so you never forget what actually saved you.
It bridges ancient historical realities with modern psychological needs perfectly. We need action, we need vulnerability, and we desperately need to remember.
So as we close out this deep dive, I want to leave you with a lingering question to explore in your own life this week.
It's a powerful one.
Look back at your own timeline and identify a moment where you were helped through a seemingly impossible battle. If you were to establish your own physical Ebenezer stone right now to mark that specific victory, what physical object would you choose?
And exactly where would you put it so that you never, ever forget?
God bless all the listeners.